We are waiting for a quorum, and so we appreciate your patience. Thank you. We'll be right with you. And thank you all for joining us this morning for the Seattle Community Police Commission. This is April 5th, 2023. The Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, Duwamish people, past and present. And with humility, we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. The Seattle Community Police Commission honors, reveres, and respects these tribes. We hope that this acknowledgement will acknowledge authentic relationships with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. Before we actually begin our formal meeting, there are a couple of remembrances that we would like to share with you today. And the first is regarding Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And yesterday was the anniversary of his assassination, April 4th, 1968. And so we take a moment to honor a man who gave his life for justice and was a champion of nonviolence. He was murdered in Memphis, Tennessee, and he knew firsthand what unjust and unconstitutional policing looked like and felt like. And our work as a commission is to work for just, fair, and constitutional policing. And we are to continue the work of Dr. King. His dream lives on in the work that we do as a community police commission. We also would like to remember one of the citizens and residents of Seattle, Mr. Elijah Lewis, and Reverend Walden will do that remembrance.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. I just want to briefly talk about Elijah Lewis. He was a young man that lost his life up on Capitol Hill on Saturday afternoon. We don't know if it was road rage or all the facts of the case. I mean, a suspect has been apprehended, has been arrested, and looked like was going to be charged for second-degree murder. But and his nephew was in the car. Elijah was really loved in the community. He was a young man, 22 years old. He was an organizer, entrepreneur, full of energy. I mean, he just was really one of the top young people that you would want to see in the world to continue his good work. He died he lost his life when the guy shot, but also he was trying to save his nephew, and his nephew did get shot in the leg, and so he's out of the hospital and doing well. We held space at the Liberty Bank building, community room for him because he worked in and out of that building. He also worked for Africa Town, and just a bright light in the world, just a tremendous light in the world, and really lost him, and his family and the community is grieving. And will actually kind of keep his name alive and highlight all the positive things that he's been doing in his life. 23 years old, and so we send our condolences to the family and to the greater community in Seattle and in the Tacoma area where he worked, where he shared his life. Just 23, bless his heart, bless his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Walden. Now we'll take attendance. The Reverend Harriet Walden. Thank you. Commissioner Mary Ruffin.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Asha Mohammed. Commissioner Joseph Saya. Commissioner Alina Santillan.
Here.
Good morning. Commissioner Erica Newman.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Tasha Johnson. Okay. Commissioner Lejaya Washington. Commissioner Suzette Dickerson.
Present.
Good morning. Commissioner Officer Mark Mullins.
Officer Mullins is here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Joel Merkel has an excused absence and will not be here today. Commissioner Jeremy Wood. I believe he will be here. And Commissioner Reverend Patricia Hunter, I am present. In your packet of materials that was sent to you, you received the agenda.
Do you want to amend it to that?
I think we could do it next meeting. So if I might entertain a motion to receive the agenda for today's meeting.
Step away from the chair and make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the agenda as received. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, the agenda is approved. We also received in your emails of information the draft minutes for our last meeting. May I have a motion to receive those minutes? So from March 15th, 2023.
I'll step away from the chair and make a motion to receive the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Reverend Wallen has moved to receive the minutes. We need a second.
I'll go ahead and second. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we receive the minutes as received. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved and the minutes are adopted. Now we will move into our departmental updates. Is there someone here from the City Council to give a report or an update?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, there's no.
Reverend Hunter. This is Newell Aldridge with Councilmember Herbold's office. The main update I have is the Public Safety and Human Services Committee will be considering appointments to the Community Police Commission in forthcoming meetings in April and May. Also wanted to thank CPC co-chairs and staff for working with this office on schedule for appointing a permanent director to make sure that aligns with the committee's meeting schedule. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Noel. Is there someone here from the mayor's office to bring us an update? The monitoring team? Is there someone from the monitoring team? No. Okay, moving right along. Department of Justice, is there an update?
I am here.
Good morning.
I had not been made a panelist, so until just a couple seconds ago. Good morning.
Good morning, Ron. Do you have, Ron, an update from the?
Well, I think as the commission is aware, the city and DOJ combined to file a motion last week petitioning the court to transform the consent decree into a compliance agreement. On April 26th, Judge Robart issued a minute order advising those interested that they could file an amicus curiae or friend of the court brief with regard to that motion. I know you have a discussion on some of these developments later in this meeting, and that summarizes my report with regard to the current status of the monitoring team. We continue to work on the accountability assessment, and that will probably be proceeding through June. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Was there anyone here from the Department of Justice? I don't
Can
see
you-
anyone.
Hi, this is Brittany Sereneo from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Can you
Okay.
add Matt Waldrop as a panelist? He's here, but he's not able to speak.
He is now.
Yeah, hey everyone, Matt Walter from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Don't have more of an update than what Ron provided. Obviously, the department, along with the city, filed a joint motion last week, and we are awaiting the court to consider that. But that's the status update from the department.
Thank you, Matt. And I see Commissioner Joseph is present, as well as Commissioner Lejay Washington and Commissioner Jeremy Wood. So thank you all for being here. Is there an update from the Office of Police Accountability? Okay. How about an update from the Office of Inspector General?
Good morning. I guess the update that would be the most relevant right now is that we are currently hiring a few new policy analysts to undertake the work that's going to be given to us from the monitoring team. So the transition from the consent decree work. And so that first job position is up right now. The next two will be available in a couple of weeks. And then we will be publishing our Wave 4 SARE panel report, which is the final of the protest review reports next week.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. And is there now an update from the Seattle Police Department?
Good morning, all. Brian Maxey from SPD. I think other than the filing of the consent decree motion last Tuesday, which I know has drawn a lot of attention, we're cautiously optimistic that that will put us on a more streamlined path to develop the crowd management policies. And obviously there's the accountability partners audit that's part of that, but we are hopeful that the court will grant that motion and we can move that process forward. The other thing I would report in on is that today we start the interview process for our Relational Policing 360 coordinator, one of whose duties will be to manage the BTB program and to continue to develop that forward. So pretty excited about that, and interviews start today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Continuing with our agenda, and we're in very good time, is that we wanted to allow significant time to talk about the filing last week. The DOJ filing along with the city to come from under the consent decree. There was a lot of information sent to you in the meeting announcement. I hope that you took the time to read it, and we would like some significant conversation about how you feel, what would you like our next steps to be, and just conversation. This is our work as a commission, and we need input from everyone. So the co-chairs, along with others from the staff, were present for the filing. And I hope that some of you saw some of the media attention that was present in print, as well as radio and television, responses by the co-chairs to the filing. So now we'd like feedback from you. Your thoughts, please.
I'll start. I mean, I think I have some concerns. I think it's a tough issue. I recognize that I don't recognize. In my opinion, Judge Robart has made some decisions in the last few years that have frankly frustrated the city's ability to reform police practices. And so I think that there are some benefits here. With that said, I have not been fully persuaded that we're quite there, but obviously it's above my pay grade. I would be interested in dedicating time, whether at a meeting or in committee, to discussing a CPC filing, because and I would be inclined to for the CPC, and my apologies if we've already taken a position to take no position, but to make recommendations for the sort of voluntary agreement that's being contemplated, and what that would entail.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think there has been conversation around the edges that it would be appropriate. We feel, some of the co-chairs feel that it would be appropriate for us to do an amicus filing. So we would like to get some feedback from the commissioners about that, so that we can file how we feel about coming from underneath the consent decree as well. We can work with our attorneys to do that, but we need input from the commissioners to move forward on that.
I think it would be worth going on record, and I know that obviously this has been an issue for years with the consent decree, and Judge Robart has held understandably that he that obviously certain actions are preempted by the CBA with SPD, but I think expressing the concerns of the CPC with the limitations of that CBA and the current grievance process on the record, in conjunction with this decision, would be appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Other thoughts?
So, Officer Mullins has a question. Can I pose a question?
Sure.
So, it sounds like, I'm sorry, the last commissioner, his name escapes me. I'm sorry.
This is Jeremy Wood.
Jeremy, I'm sorry. It sounds like you're not totally satisfied with the outcome or what may happen because of the decision. So tell me, what reservations do you have about SPD that they haven't met the criteria of the dissent decree or dissent agreement?
Sure. Thank you, officer. And I don't know if I would necessarily go that far. It's been a while since I read the consent decree itself. I do have serious concerns that I think are frankly neither the fault of SPD nor the city, that the grievance process has allowed certain officers to remain in duty despite concerning misconduct. And I know that that's not necessarily something to be resolved through the consent decree, but I think needs to be affirmed as an ongoing issue in this new phase of however we continue to conduct the city and SPD's efforts to maintain constitutional compliance.
Thank you. Other thoughts, commissioners? Aye. Not a commissioner, but I do see Mr. Maxey's hand. Yes.
Co-Chair Hunter, if it's not appropriate for me to be speaking at this time, just let me know, but I'd be happy to sort of weigh in on my perspective on this if you'd like to hear it.
I think I'd like to hear the commissioner's perspective first.
Okay, I will remain
And then I'll
silent.
get back
and
with you.
If you, thank you.
Mhm.
Most of the commissioners that's on now probably came on after the consent decree and so might not have the background to you know, I mean, it was like 10 areas that the city was out of compliance on and what they're saying is that they have met most of those areas and the DOJ is finding the city to be in compliance in those areas and what's left is the accountability and I think crowd management
Right.
and so this is a little history. The DOJ, I mean, when the memorandum of understanding was signed, the police commission the community police commission was given the hardest job to set up the accountability system. And the IG, as we see it today, was not in practice at that time. We had an auditor, and so the hard work we did is that we set up that office that now as the IG and expanded all the powers that the auditor did not have, and so we actually completed many volumes of work that the commission and filed in the court and worked on some of these other issues, especially around the use of force. The use of force policy that was accepted by the state attorney general's office came from the CPC, and it talked about de-escalation first. I mean, it's being used statewide, and so I think that it's really important for us to file because we filed in 2020 when the city wanted to come from under the consent decree. They withdrew their filing after the George Floyd event. They withdrew their filing. We did not. So anyway, in alignment with what in areas that similar what maybe Jeremy is talking about, there are some issues that cannot be solved under the consent decree. A lot of that is labor issues with the state of Washington. I mean, you know, the judge has no jurisdictions in those areas. So again, we have to continue to push in the city for the ordinance to be implemented and to bargain with all of the parts of the ordinance. So we'll be fully vested in a real ordinance passing. So anyway, those are the reasons why we need to file. But also, just want to bring up maybe what I'm saying now might spark some information, or might make a commissioner might have an idea and want to ask a question or get more engaged in it. Because I mean, being a community police commission, one of the things we have to be is engaged in the policies, and then working on the policies so we can talk about the policies, and then the engagement. Directors that can actually set up community engagements around some of those policies. And so anyway, just wanted to get some information and get some, maybe we can get some more discussion because as a person who's been on such a long time, I do have the history, but I want to just give a history background on how we got here and all the work that was done. And now I'm not sure, but the city is most likely, the DOJ is most likely to fail. But as we started this venture here, we had to petition the court to get anonymous amicus status, and we did that successfully. And so it's very fitting that if this ends this part of the consent decree, that we need to be on the record with the filing. On the record as we has been the whole time. We have not missed a time not being on the record.
Thank you, Reverend Walden. Other commissioners? Yes, LaJayo?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Walden, for the history. And I was, just to be transparent, I think I'm just missing information like the data behind the data supporting the city's claims that they've made progress in particular areas. I read the filing, but it just seemed kind of brief, which makes sense. So I was just wondering if there was a place where I could kind of get more information behind what they're saying.
Thank you, Commissioner Washington. Brian Maxey, do you have information on the data? I know that there was a lot of statistics that were given at the meeting last week, and I believe most of those came from SPD.
Yes, so we have publicly facing dashboards that have our use of force, our crisis, our stops and detentions data in both raw and dashboard format. But I think probably the best compendium of that information is in the monitor's last comprehensive assessment of the police department. That I can certainly distribute if the commissioners do not have access to that, but I believe it's online as well. In that, he went through all of the monitoring team went through all of the areas of the consent decree and affirmed that we were in compliance with them. With the outstanding issue of accountability that the court had previously found us out of compliance with. And I think that is probably the best compendium. There's also the prior monitors assessments that are also online that detail over the years how by 2016, the police department had met full and effective compliance with all of those areas. So that's where I'd point you to, but I'm also happy to provide any data any commissioner has particular interest in.
Thank you so much. I believe that monitor's report is also on our CPC website, and maybe Megan can pull that up. Commissioner Washington?
Yes, I just looked it up and looks familiar. I don't know, maybe Callie sent it out. We do have access to it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Other commissioner input?
Sure. I just wanted to add one more comment. At one of the groups who helped to bring the DOJ to town, and I've stated this more than once that that's the public wants, when they want police accountability or anything that would for the public and the community, they want the shootings and those things to go down. In a lot of areas, that piece did not happen. So a lot of times people think that police accountability, there's a disconnect from what we want, the community, and the DOJ comes into fight. I mean, and so just having that conversation out in the community, I mean, because people say, well, I don't know how to be doing this because this is going up, but this is happening. And so there's a disconnect. And so how do you connect the community with the findings of the DOJ when they're going to point to somebody, some of the people who have lost their lives in the time that the DOJ has been here. And that's not only here, that's in all the cities where they've gone. I mean, in Albuquerque, and I mean, in other places where they've been, that is the sentinel question about how they connect the two with the findings that they find and the findings and the feelings that the community have around officers involved shooting, and that has not been resolved. And so when you talk about police accountability, the community, I mean, we who have worked on this had another opinion about it. And stuff like that. So it's just, we're going to talk about it. We just have to talk about all the areas where people don't feel that, although they met the DOJ criteria, or they believe they have, and they want the court to sign up, the judge to sign that. But then you leave that that area here in the community where people just don't see it, how they can be accountable. I mean, and have want to come for money because of this area, and that just has to be discussed. Like I said, not only here, it's in Oakland. I mean, it's in Albuquerque and places where the DOJ is.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Other commissioner responses?
Yes, Officer Mullins would like to say something again.
Okay.
And on the flip side, the Reverend just talked about the community and their concerns. The officers on the other side have questions about the fact that when they're told they've met all the criteria, and I think in the first case before George Floyd, we met the criteria faster than any department our size in the country. I think the President of the United States, Barack Obama, said we were a shining example of police work or a police department. The fact of the matter is we had met all the criteria, but George Floyd happened and we went back into the dissent decree or the dissent agreement. And so we feel like we've been through this twice. And we also feel like we've met all the criteria twice. At least we've been told that. Okay. So when we hear that people still aren't satisfied, it kind of demotivates us. And we ask ourselves, what more can we do? Because we see the fact that we have to train more, or we have to go to training. We're pulled away from our squads and our numbers are depleted because of the fact that we're training all the time. We don't mind meeting the requirements and we don't mind doing the work, but we would just like to hear someone say we did a good job when we've been working so hard to try to meet all the standards and criteria that the DOJ has put on us. It has been quite stretching and stressful for the officers. Thank you.
Thank you.
My comments was actually, and I really appreciate that, Officer Mullen, and the police department continues to make strides. And I was talking about what people think about when they hear the word police accountability, and they believe that's just a disconnect in the community. And so I'm personally not saying that the officers have not, stepped up and we've had improvements. That would not be a true statement. I'm just saying that the DOJ standards, when they come in about constitutional policing, and what the community thinks about constitutional policing and what the DOJ standard is for constitutional policing, there is a disconnect, and it's not a disregard for the good work that the officers are doing. It's just a disconnect from their standard of constitutional policing as it relates to the regular person. When they look at this, they might not read the law the same way, or they might not even have any interpretation. All they have is a visual of what is happening, or what, because all it takes is one bad event in America to put any police department back to zero, back to square one again. Every bad event, even more so since Mike Brown, that incident, has made every police department has to have to be on alert because all the things that's happening in the nation, and it might not be happening here in Seattle, but it happens someplace else. Right. And so that's where the disconnect is. And so that's the piece that I'm talking about. It's not that the officers did not step up to do, to do a better job and to get the training that's necessary. It's just one major event can take you back to square one, and those kinds of things. So, Officer Mullen and I agree on a lot of issues, and so we're not in disagreement today. We're just saying it differently. That's all.
Yes, ma'am. We are not in disagreement at all. Yes, ma'am.
And I, stepping away from the chair, that I believe there's a lot of wonderful officers who do wonderful work. And that does need to be shared. But as you mentioned, Officer Mullins, George Floyd happened. And there is a name in the community that sparked demonstrations, and the response of SPD was lacking in many ways. And so it's my understanding that this carve-out transition piece around crowd management and accountability, the DOJ and the city are thinking it's going to be short-term. I'm not convinced that it can be resolved in the short amount of time that we were led to believe that by June, I believe they said that they thought all of these two issues could be resolved. I don't know, but as Reverend Walden mentioned, there was a name, there was a George Floyd, and that raised some questions about crowd management of SPD and accountability concerns. I think it is fair to have questions about the collective bargaining impact on officer discipline, and if that can be bargained away, that is a concern of some of the commissioners, and I think it's worth us making a statement and making that a formal statement to the judge. So that's my thought. Any other commissioners?
Mr. Max.
Okay. Mr. Maxey, was there something else that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I'll be very, very brief because I believe that Reverend Walden articulated the state of affairs far more eloquently than I can. I guess what I would just like to share with the group is that the consent decree, I think, has taken on more importance than it actually was intended to have. In other words, it is a discrete set of paragraphs on a discrete set of issues. Certainly the spirit of the consent decree has been embraced by the city and the department and all of our accountability partners. But when you actually look at the document and the tool and what it was designed to do, I really submit that it has served its purpose. It was designed to create policies, create training, create critical systems of self-analysis. And then we, the city of Seattle and all of you, added on the accountability ordinance and all the structures that none of that was in the consent decree. That was driven by the city itself. And that is what I think is, from where I sit, the pressures I feel to change, the pressures I feel to evolve and help this department move forward. They are coming from our accountability partners, from our own force review board, from our own systems and our own data. The consent decree is not motivating us to do anything at this point. It is there and we respect its terms, but we don't have tasks under it, whereas we are far more accountable to you and the accountability partners at this point in time. And I mean no disrespect to the consent decree. I think it's been a powerful tool for driving change at Seattle Police Department, but I believe it has run its course. The one thing that I will say that I have grave concerns about ending the consent decree is our force investigation team. We have spent a decade creating a very elite team of force investigators, and our CSI group is second to none in the state. When we come out of the consent decree, we revert to the state standard. Right now, we have a carve out where we get to have our teams investigate our officer-involved shootings or in custody deaths. When we pull out of the consent decree, we will be investigated by, King County FIT. And when the OII comes on board for criminal process, they will take the lead. My concern is that I think we hold ourselves to a very high standard and understand our policies. And there are many things that may fall by the wayside. We've been negotiating with OII in particular about the release of video and objective information that we do in these critical incidents. Under the state law, we would not have the ability to be transparent, and that causes us great concern. So what I'm trying to make sure is that as we hopefully emerge from under federal oversight, that the current state requirements don't actually take us backwards in terms of trust with our community. Thank you for letting me speak. And again, you guys are far more articulate than I.
Thank you. I think what I would like is to entertain a motion that we, as a commission, move forward with developing a brief that we would send to Judge Robart, to the court. So is there a motion that gives the co-chairs a permission to work with the attorneys to, and before that actually would go to the court, we would have to come back and get approval from the CPC, but we just would like to move forward with developing an amicus brief. And as a chair, I cannot present that motion.
Step away. I step away from the chair and make a motion that we file an amicus brief and file in the court before the deadline.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second. This is
Thank
Suzette.
you. Thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. It's been moved and seconded that the CPC move forward with developing an amicus brief that we will present to the court before the deadline. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, I guess we will move forward. We're early, but we will just keep moving. Co-chair updates. We continue to move forward with new commissioners and bylaw reviews and updates, and we will keep you posted on where we are. So I won't take any other thunder away from the staff as they share their updates. Walden, do you have anything you'd like to share as an update? Okay. Let's move to the executive director update.
Great.
Dr.
Thank you,
Ellis?
Dr. Hendrick.
Mhm.
Yes. So we are very excited that we are in the final stages of finally getting an executive assistant for the Community Police Commission. It was very, very heartening to us and the work that we do that there were 88 applicants who passed all the minimum qualifications, and there were over 100 that applied from the get-go. So this is really going to help stabilize us as an organization and provide a lot of support for the existing staff. That's really the top of my mind and what we're working on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. That is exciting news. Staff departments updates. Mina, would you share with us?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I won't go into too much detail because there's some work group participants who can provide that detail, but I just want to say I've met several times with the work groups, complaint appeals, behavioral health, and police practices, and making good progress on developing the work there, and for some of the work groups, developing a work plan and solidifying goals, and especially in with regard to police practices, thinking about the implications of the consent decree potentially ending, what the implications are for our work in that group. Yeah, so making a lot of progress, and I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, Mina, the new commissioners?
Oh, sure. Thank you for inviting me, Holly. So we have, I believe, 5 new commissioners joining us. They'll be going before the City Council for confirmation in the coming weeks, but we're looking forward to welcoming 5 new folks, 3 CPC appointees and 2 mayoral appointees to the commission. So look forward to having them at future meetings.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Megan, did you share with us?
We are prepared to post the 2021 annual report. For those asking why it's so late, we had some staff working on it and then leave, and new staff come in, and in order to properly provide the community with a report on what we've done and how we've done it, we needed some time to review. And so we are ready with that report, and we hope to be able to post it. And a couple of highlights: there were 23 recommendations that the commission made, and we cataloged what was accepted and what was declined. In 2021, we launched the Police Accountability Recommendation Tracker. That was a big event. We also hired Connected Realities to work on a strategic planning process, and we hope to highlight those results in the 2022 annual report. And I think that's about it. It was still the pandemic, and so meetings were virtual, and it's about 30 pages. We hope to post it. And then on communications, we had a big media week last week. We had some fairly extensive coverage of the co-chairs, and we have posted all of that on our website for anyone who needs to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Do we need to vote on the annual report? Okay, just post it.
I believe so.
Okay, cool. Glad that is out of the way.
Amen.
Amen. Commissioner work group updates. Police practices, Commissioner Washington.
Thank you. I'm working on like 3 screens and my mouse got stuck on one. So we have, we met very recently to go over review past documents, review some reports, and we're shoring up our focus. Specifically, we want to focus on our work group, and then we're working on delegating, like who will be responsible for what and exactly what we want to do. But we are making a lot of progress. I'm really impressed, and I believe we're meeting again next week.
Okay, thank you. Behavioral health, Commissioner Newman.
Hi, Mina and I have met twice. We're gonna meet, I think, next week. Still in the early planning stages. We went over previous documents to see if there are ideas that were proposed in the last group that may still be of issue and want to carry forward this go round. So I will be able to provide I guess, a better update at the next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Complaint and appeals, Commissioner Wood or Commissioner Ruffin?
I'm happy to give a brief update. We met within the last couple of weeks. Mina was kind enough to set up a meeting for us with OPA in discussing where a complaint appeals process from the CPC would or would not overlap with OPA's current practice. It was a very helpful meeting, including just to have a better understanding of OPA's process and perhaps some of the underutilized facets of that process, mediation, for example. What we took from that, and we still need to have a follow-up meeting, Mary and Mina and I, is that that complaint appeals work may potentially be best directed towards devising a system of recommended reforms to OPA's process in collaboration with OPA. There isn't a ton of space for an additional process, it seems. But OPA has done post surveys of folks who have gone through its process in the past, and unfortunately those have been quite critical, but they've yielded some good information that we might be able to work with OPA and potentially other partners, including City Council, to recommend some reforms. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the update. Community engagement, Commissioner Santillan.
I got a email from Felicia about scheduling a meeting. We haven't had a chance to do that yet. Officer Mullins is on that committee as well.
Okay. Okay. And then the legislative update.
Sure. So there have been a number of, we're getting very near the end. And if you can think all the way back to January, when we first announced what was important to us, what was important, our discussion about what was important to the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability, the things that you as commissioners voted on, including a statement of values that guided the work of the staff. You'll notice that a lot of that is gone. That's sort of where we're at in the process. So you will see some of the things that we've been following absorbed into the budget. From now until April 23rd, when legislative session ends, that is going to be taking up the majority of the time for the legislature. And so sometimes bills that had a fiscal note attached to them will show up as different parts of the budget, but this is a huge negotiation process that's going to be going on for quite some time, until at least the end of hopefully a regular session. I did want to point out that there's a few bills that have gone to rules. Rules is the last step before going to the floor. It is not a guarantee that the bills are going to be heard or passed one way or the other, but the vehicular pursuit reform bill, the one that had popped up suddenly in the Senate from Senator Lovick, is now currently in rules. And so there's probably a pretty active discussion there about pulling it to the floor and what that might look like. This was to roll back part of the reforms to the 2021 or prior to 2021 situation. However, if you look closely in the gigantic budget documents, there are some of the things there that are no longer standalone bills, but are part of the budget review about work groups to establish best practices statewide for that. So keep your eyes open. I post on our website, on Twitter, an update every Friday. It's really short, and I encourage you to watch that if you want to stay engaged with what we're doing every week. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any new business to present, and we're moving really quickly. I'm wondering if Pam is available.
So I got in touch with Pam, and Pam is at another meeting. Oh, Pam is here. Great. Maybe she was
Wonderful.
able to move her schedule. So I just promoted Pam.
Okay.
Pam?
Here she is. Hello, Pam? Maybe she's still connecting.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're moving right through our agenda, and we are right at the place now where we'd like to hear from you on the executive director hiring process. So you're on. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you, Reverend Hunter. So for all of you who don't know me, my name is Pam Inch. I am the Senior Executive Recruiter with the Department of Human Resources. I serve as the project lead for recruitment. I worked with the third party back in 2018 to help the commission hire the previous director. And I also facilitated the most recent process to hire the OPA director. So I have had the opportunity to meet with the co-chairs and have a conversation with them about this search. One of the things given the schedule for this search is my understanding is that the commission would like to appoint their executive director in 2023. I've had some conversations with Council Member Herbold's office around that scheduling. And in order to meet that deadline, the commission is going to need to make their nomination at their July meeting, the second meeting in July. I'm sorry, I'm waiting for my computer to pull up my schedule here. But that would need to happen. The other thing is that the co-chairs and I have met jointly with the city attorney's office, and we've also met separately around what needs to happen in terms of how this event, how this recruitment is going to occur. So I'm not quite certain if you've got representatives from the city attorney's office with you, but just want to kind of give you some overview. There are some requirements of the commission to make decisions as the commission. One of them is to approve the posting, and hopefully you've been able to review the posting that I am suggesting. You will also need to kind of weigh in on applicants that are forwarded for consideration. One of the things that we've identified is that we want to generate candidates between kind of now and the end of May, looking to present applicants for your consideration, kind of to put them into the process on June 7th. We've had some conversation about having a preliminary interview that may include folks from the commission as well as some key stakeholders. That group would interview a small group of folks, no more than 6, and make a recommendation about who the commission should interview as a whole as finalists. The commission as a whole would vote and decide who the commission wants to interview as finalists. I anticipate kind of that decision being made at the June 21st meeting, and then the July 12th meeting would be the time that you would meet with those finalists. So what we'd do is set we'd have a mechanism, probably a SharePoint site managed by SHR that would give you access to all applicant material. You would get briefings from me at your regular meetings between now and July 12th. The interviews themselves, so when in July, when you as a commission interview, that would be done in executive session, but your decision would be made in a public session. So that's kind of what we're looking at based on kind of our experience with OPA. I would anticipate that in terms of candidates who have experience in this field, I think you're probably going to get about a dozen. You'll probably also get some folks that just apply. But I do anticipate that it's about a dozen. My intent is to do a little bit of reach out with some folks that we come across in the prior search, in the OPA search, and then just to kind of contact some folks who I think might be interested in the role. So I'll just stop there and see if there's any questions regarding the process.
Yes, I have one, Pam. You mentioned a date of July 12th. On the schedule that we have for milestones, there are two July 21st dates. One has CPC interviews finalists, the other one has CPC makes appointment. So that first one perhaps should be July 12th instead of the 21st?
That's correct, Reverend Hunter. I apologize. I transposed those numbers. I did yesterday verify your calendar. It would need to be July 12th. And I will tell you that that's kind of that is a drop dead date in order for us to meet the council's calendar to have it heard in September, which is the only opportunity to confirm your selection in 2023.
Thank you. Any other questions about the process so far, the milestones? Yes, Gary.
Yes, thank you, Reverend Hunter. Good morning, commissioners. Just wanted to chime in and add that Gary Smith with the City Attorney's Office, and also wanted to introduce Joe Levan, who is another attorney in government affairs, who is going to be assisting with advice from on general municipal law principles for the City Attorney's Office, basically taking the role that Teresa Chen has historically performed until she left the City Attorney's Office. In addition, we have Catherine Childers participating, who is with the employment section, and she is available to provide advice from an employment law perspective. So just wanted to introduce our team and say that we will be advising throughout this process. Pam's proposed structure is consistent with our guidance, and the most important point being that the real decision-making it's challenging for a multi-member body like the CPC to engage in this process and make an appointment while also being cognizant of the Open Public Meetings Act and the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. And the most important principle is, as Pam suggested, that the decision-making, any final decisions, either narrowing applicants or appointing the final position for the final appointment for the position, be taken by the full CPC in an open session. Pam is correct that interviews of the candidates can be done in executive session, but it's important that the full CPC make any decisions about the candidates in an open session. So just wanted to add that, introduce the team and add that guidance, and we will be available to advise throughout the process. And Pam, I don't know whether you were asking the commission to delegate any authority to SDHR to perform any initial screening of applicants, or what the specific plan was there, but that would be defensible to have SDHR perform an initial screening to ensure candidates met minimum qualifications.
So Gary, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I am going to ask the commission that you delegate that to SDHR. And I will tell you that if you take a look at the job posting, the requirements for the position are very broad, but I will tell you that we get people who apply for jobs that have very little experience in aligned to the job posting. You know, my favorite one was the pizza delivery person who applied to be the police chief. So you will get applicants for that, and just know that my philosophy has always been that we screen people in as opposed to screen people out, but I do want to best utilize your time. So the request I'm going to make today is both the permission to do that initial screening for minimum requirements, as well as your permission to post the position and open it up for applications.
Is the first request including for the office for what is it, SHR to facilitate that?
Yes, the first request is that SHR perform a review of all applicants to determine that they are qualified for consideration.
Okay, so we need 2 motions then.
Yeah, we could have to. Okay, so I'm happy to entertain the first motion that we delegate permission to is it Seattle Department of Human Resources?
That's correct.
To do the initial screening for minimum requirements. Is there someone who will offer that motion?
I'll step away from the chair now for the motion as you just stated.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Walden has offered that motion. I need a second.
Officer Mullins will second that motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we delegate the initial screening for minimum requirements to the Seattle Department of Human Resources. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion is carried. The next motion that we need is to post the job description and to open for applicants. Is there a motion for that?
I'll step away then from the chair and support the motion that as you just stated.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Walden moved that we post the job description for the executive director and open it for applications. Is there a second?
Officer Mullins will second that motion.
Thank you. Yeah. Any discussion? Of course not. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No.
I do need to do a roll call, then I answer.
Okay, the motion is carried.
All right, thank you, commissioners. I look forward to working with you. I will work to get that position posted. I would imagine it may be today, but for certain by tomorrow. I look forward to working with you. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to do that. I will keep in touch with the co-chairs about my progress.
Thank you so much, Pam. Appreciate it. And
Thank
also
you.
appreciate all of those from the city attorney's office. Thank you so much. And this ends our meeting of the Seattle Community Police Commission for this date, April 5th at 10:19 a.m. Thank you all for joining. Meeting adjourned.
Recording stop.